Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to talk about movies and horror. And today I bring you my wrap up for the month of June.
It's coffee time!
Alright guys, so the month of June was actually quite good when it comes to watching movies. I have tried to focus on some horror releases for 2023 that I had missed, and most of the things that I have to talk to you about in this video are things that I have either already a review up or the review might be coming. So let's take a look as always to my Letterboxd and see what I managed to watch. Alright, so we're gonna go all the way back to the 1st of June. So the first movie that I watched is The Park. This is a dystopian coming-of-age story. We have a world in which humankind has been almost completely wiped out, but only the adults have perished. Basically, there is a virus that is loose in the world, and everybody that is either an adult or a kid that reaches puberty gets sick and dies. I thought this premise was really interesting because of course it's also a social commentary on how are we currently living the world to our future children. So what would happen if the adults would be completely removed from the world and only our children would be left to navigate the world as it is. The movie had interesting visuals, an interesting concept, but for me personally it didn't ended up delivering as much as I wanted it to. There's also certain risks you take when your whole cast is children, but at the end of the day it was a nice sweet story, and I think it is still okay for like a one-time watch. After that I finally was able to go and watch The Boogeyman. I watched it on release date. I have just been waiting for it patiently. And I quite enjoy it. This is obviously based on a short story by Stephen King. There was already a Boogeyman movie, I think it came out in 2005, that was quite not great, let's just say it, and it had a couple of sequels. And this time around, The Boogeyman, it's a movie that I would compare more to The Babadook. It is a story that deals with a family grief and also kind of enters the idea of this entity, of this boogeyman that comes for children and families that have lost connection with each other, that are more vulnerable, and because this family that we have in the movie are going through some grief, they are potential victims for this entity. I did enjoy a lot of things from the movie, like some of the more creative horror elements that we had, and I also did like the creature. The pacing was a little bit rocky at times, but I would still recommend you guys to go and give it a watch. Next we have Follow Her. So this is a movie based on social media. We follow a struggling actress that has an account at a website where she exposes weirdos and she makes her money with that. And she gets the opportunity to work with a director of a new movie, and he is looking for a girl to help him with this script and to appear in the movie. So she ends up going to meet this director that wants her for this potential movie, and she ends up in a nightmare of her own. I liked many things about this movie. This is a female directed film that had really good commentary on how social media takes over our lives and everything we are willing to do and risk in order to get views, in order to be number one in XYZ platform. And I enjoyed it. It had an interesting ending that is not going to be for everybody, but if you like this kind of social media commentary horror movies, you might want to check it out. Then I was rewatching the old Boogeyman movies because I think I might still do it. I wanted to potentially do a ranking video of all of them. So I watched Boogeyman II, which it completely detaches itself from the first one, and I think it was beneficial that it did so. This one felt like a very early 2000s movie, and I did enjoy the kills. I think they were fun. It was almost, you know, like one of those Saw movie kills kind of situation where everybody gets killed in a very specific way related to their character and stuff. So it was, you know, it was fun for what it was. Next we have Teen and Tina. My review for this is also already up. This is a Spanish horror movie on Netflix that kind of talks about Christianity and religion and how we are putting our faith in God's hands, how devotion sometimes can be dangerous. We have a family that was struggling to have kids, so they decided to adopt a set of twins from an orphanage, from a convent, and the kids were raised with the Catholic religion, and so they read the Bible and they take everything in the book very literal. And it is a very interesting movie. I think the concept, the idea, the acting, everything was pretty good, but the pacing and the fact that the movie was 2 hours long was not beneficial to the story. I felt like it did drag at times. It should have been a little bit edited down in my opinion. But it was an interesting movie because it was not also like your typical, you know, creepy children movie. At least it tried to be something different. Next we have Keeper of the Ashes, the Oklahoma Girl Scout Murders. This is a true crime documentary. I think I found it on Disney Plus here in the Netherlands. And I enjoyed it because this was a very gruesome story that I was unfamiliar with. My only issue with the documentary was that I felt like they were dragging the story a lot and they extended the documentary way too much. It was not necessary, so it was a bit repetitive at times. But I was, you know, really shocked by the true story because, like I said, I was not familiar with it. Then I watched Brooklyn 45. I think this is on Shudder. And this one was so intriguing to me because it was one of those movies that it is very different, and one of those movies that takes place basically in just one location, and if it's done right it can be quite entertaining. It's December 1945 and we have a group of friends that decide to gather one night, and there's a lot of ghosts from the past that are coming to hunt them in a way. This movie is not so much a horror film, but more, you know, not about literal ghosts, more about ghosts of our past, things that we have experienced, things we have done, because all of our main characters in one way or another were affected by Nazi Germany, the war and everything. And it was a really interesting concept. I think the acting in this movie was what elevated it a lot. It was great acting, and it was really interesting, but it's not going to be for everybody because for the majority of the movie it's just for like the 40 minutes in the middle is just conversation, script, dialogue, and not much is happening. Then we watched The Flash, and for this one, you know, I have been burnt already this year with the DC movies, and I had hopes for The Flash because it's directed by Andy Muschietti. He did the It Part 1 and Part 2 movies that I really enjoyed, so I was excited that he took on this project, and I have to say I enjoyed it a lot more than I anticipated. It was entertaining, it had good humor, that humor that is kind of stupid but it works, and it just hit the spot for me. Also, I love to see Michael Keaton come back. Those also were my highlights in the movie, to be honest, and I just had a good time. So honestly, I would recommend you guys to go check this one out for sure. Could it have been better? Yes, but was it entertaining and did it fulfill me? Yes. After that, I rewatched Insidious Chapter 3. Now, this was not great. It's a very flawed movie. It's not the best in the Insidious series, but we are rewatching all of them before going to watch the new one, which is coming out really soon, so I can do a ranking of those. Then I watched the Unheard. This is a movie that I was really interested about because it is about a deaf character that goes to get a surgical procedure that is going to allow her to be able to hear again. And after she gets the procedure, a lot of weird things start to happen. Now, this movie had a great concept. It was well acted. The problem is that the majority of the movie was so slow burning and nothing really happened until the last 20 to 30 minutes. That's when the movie turned great, but it just dragged so much. It was just not a movie that was supposed to be this long. So it had positive things, but also negative things. I will let you guys watch it and come to your own conclusions. It's not a bad movie by all means. I just feel like it just dragged too much for me and it was boring for a lot of it, especially at the beginning. And then I watched, you guys, The Wrath of Becky. Bless this movie. It was just fun, bloody, gory, entertaining. This is a movie, like I've said before, it doesn't need a super deep story theme. It's just there to be fun, and the movie knows it, and they exploit it so well. I feel like if you've enjoyed the first movie, Becky, you will love this one as well. It is the same concept, it follows the same rules, the same pattern, so some people might think, oh, it's repetitive, it's the same. But for me, I enjoyed it, I had a good time, I got the gore that I needed, and I just love the character of Becky a lot. So I would recommend you guys to check it out. Then we watched Insidious The Last Key, which, you know, Lin Shaye just carries these movies on her shoulder. I love her so much. Every time I see her in an Insidious movie, that's my favorite part. I feel like I really enjoyed this one because it goes a little bit more into detail on her story and a little bit more into this in-between world, which is one of my favorite things to see in the Insidious franchise. So I am intrigued to see what they're gonna do now with part 5. And then I watched There's Something Wrong with the Children, which didn't love that much. I think my review is still not up, but as soon as I upload it, you guys are gonna be able to check it out and see all my in-depth thoughts on the movie without spoilers, of course. And then I watched Sanctuary, which is a movie that I was really excited to check out. It is a claustrophobic movie that takes place just in a hotel room, and it only has 2 characters basically for the whole movie. We have a guy that has just inherited a hotel empire, and we have his dominatrix, and they meet for one of their sessions, and then things get a little bit complicated when they start talking about the future of their relationship. I don't want to tell you too much about it because this movie is a movie you have to experience without knowing too much about it. But I can see why this movie would not work for everybody. The reason is that this movie is very slow paced. It's a movie with a lot of dialogue, but the dialogue is so good and the acting is so good. So it's almost, you know, like Brooklyn 45. It's almost like watching a theater play in front of you on stage. So this is kind of like the vibes that the movie has. And it was disturbing at times. It's kind of like a psychological game, and if you like those type of movies, you might enjoy it, this one. And then I watched We Have a Ghost. I wasn't sure if I wanted to watch this one for some time because I am not the biggest fan of this typical Netflix horror comedies that are being released every year, especially towards, you know, spooky season, October. But because of the cast and because I have heard from other people that it was good, I decided to give it a watch, and to be fair, I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought. Now, this is not exactly a horror movie, it is purely a comedy, almost a little bit of a drama, but I really love the character arc that we get with the ghost, and I thought it was a lot more intelligent, a lot more fun than other movies I have seen that have tried to do the same thing. So definitely recommend it to you guys. And then I watched Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. This is another movie that I have been postponing for a long time. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the Resident Evil movies in the first place. I don't think they're great. I think they're a good guilty pleasure and I can rewatch them and have some fun with them. I just don't think they're great movies. So when this one got so much criticism, I was scared going into it because I have played the video games and I knew by the casting that it was not going to be fulfilling when it comes to character representation, and you know, the people they picked to play the characters I was not so much on board with. But I went into it with an open mind, already thinking that it was not going to be amazing. And I thought, you know, it was fun for what it was. It does have a lot of problems, let's face it, it is what it is. But I did like, you know, the fight scenes, the action scenes, and, you know, there are a lot of Easter eggs from the Resident Evil franchise, and, you know, they tried. I think the movie was supposed to get a sequel. There's even like a post-credit scene. I think the sequel now is completely off the table. But, you know, it was fun, I guess. It was entertaining. Honestly, I enjoyed it more than I anticipated. So I ended up not hating it, I guess, but also not loving it. Let me know down below, you guys, what you think about the Resident Evil movies. I still have not seen the TV show. I'm scared. But let me know what you guys think about all of these Resident Evil adaptations. I'll be curious to know. And the last thing that I watched in the month of June is Consecration. My review for this is also coming up, so I'm not gonna say anything about it yet. I'm gonna let you guys figure out what I thought about the movie on my spoiler-free review, but that was the last thing that I watched this month when it comes to movies. We are still watching season 2 of From. So far, I'm a little bit disappointed with the second season. I feel like it's not as strong as the first season was. And we are still watching Supernatural. We're mid-end season 8, so we're getting somewhere. So yeah, those are the things that I have been watching. Alright, you guys, those were all the movies and TV shows I have been checking out in the month of June. Let me know down below which of these things have you watched, which things you recommend me to check out. Let's talk about it in the comments. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!